Multifamily Mindset
podcast. Think bigger.
Welcome back to another episode of the Multifamily Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Zach Rucker, co-founder of Black Cedar Investments and coach here at the Multifamily Mindset. Today, this episode is our student episode, and I'm really excited about our interview today. We have actually, I can say she's a partner. We're partnered on a deal together and some soon to be coming deals, right? So I'm excited to share who is on today and her story. And I think all of our listeners are going to take so much away. So with that, Rashmi, we have you with Arcstone Capital. Thank you so much for taking the time today to jump on, and let's let the listeners know who Rashmi is.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me on the podcast. And we are, right? We're getting into a deal, which is just around the corner. I was super excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, a little bit about myself. I've been in corporate for over 20 years, and got into multifamily. I've done real estate and got into multifamily as part of the mentorship program, and joined MFM last year, and been a part of the program since, and have had such a blast just meeting people, networking, learning, and it's been amazing. But we just actually, are in the middle of doing a deal at the end of it, which was part of, the goal and the reason why I joined the program. So it's great. But outside of, work, I'm, been in technology, did recruiting, I did technology program management, for the 20 years that I was in, corporate. I consult now. I was with Amazon when I left in 2019, and since then decided to go part-time and do consulting, just really have time for my family and my kids, my son, who was going off to high school at the time. And I figured, okay, I have 4 more years to be able to spend a little bit more time with him and be around. So that's kind of what I ended up doing, and went the consulting route, which has actually brought in just so many different opportunities. I think just making that decision of moving away from my W-2 and making sort of that mindset shift to doing consulting and taking that step has actually been great. It's helped me so much more, I think, personally, develop and grow since then. But yeah, that's me. I am mom of 2, and I have a dog. We live in Jersey, and with my husband, and
Awesome.
like I said, excited to be on, on this, to share my story, and, hopefully inspire some of the others, in their journey.
Yeah. Definitely. And I remember when you came on board, you came with a lot of passion and drive, and I knew you were going to take it somewhere. So it's cool to hear your story of you already started transitioning, right? Because you probably went to part of your why is spending more time with your kids and your family, and so you already started that transition. And then was there ever like an interest in real estate, or what happened from tech and consulting that made you intrigued or sign up with multifamily?
Yeah, I think, so I think my inspiration comes from my dad. My dad was in real estate. He did a lot of, JVs, and, I want to say creative financing. I didn't even know it was a term when, my dad was doing it back in India, like maybe 20 years ago, or, more. But obviously grew up with that, knowing that, there was this. And, in all honesty, I don't think I understood when my dad said, about building passive income or generational wealth. And, some of that, I didn't understand what that meant, because I had my own journey to, follow. I needed, I wanted to go work and, make my own life and do my own thing. And here I am, an immigrant, came here, 25 years ago. And, I had my own vision of what I wanted to do with my life and didn't really want to sort of follow what my dad was telling us. So, maybe didn't even understand that because, I suppose I didn't even build that sort of, what should I say, I didn't have that appetite because I was kind of blocking what he was saying. Because
which
I maybe had a tunnel
we
vision.
do to parents, right? As kids, we
Right?
block out our parents because it's
like they say, karma is a bitch; it'll come back.
yeah.
Sorry,
But
I
in
don't
this
know.
terms, it's a good thing, right? This came
Yeah.
back around
It
and
did,
circled.
it
Yeah.
did. But so going back to that, I think I grew up with with real estate, learning about the value of it. But and every time my dad's visited, we did, property tours, like we've gone looked at hotels and, like smaller apartments and so on. But again, I didn't even know how to start, where to look for. So it was just different. But when I actually, and I'd invested in, as an LP, obviously being in sort of, the corporate world, I had invested as LP on deals
Okay.
before. It's just a little different. So I did have that exposure, but
Yeah.
not as an active, as what I do now. But I did do single family, I did short term. So I had a little bit of experience, in that because I had my, kind of hands dirty. So I did learn what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
So it was a good experience from that standpoint. But I think when I did my short-term rentals, those were the time, that was the time when I was like, okay, well, I love some portions of this, but because I have like this habit of over obsessing over certain things, it probably was not a good fit for me to do something within that hospitality, industry, because I was obsessing over, oh my God, how are my guests going to feel like, and every little thing would bother me. For me at that point, I was not looking at the profit, I was looking at the experience. And, like I think as an entrepreneur, you need to be somewhere maybe in between.
Yeah.
Anyways, with that, I kind of knew maybe, switching it around is probably, like a good thing to do, and maybe look at other asset classes. And that's really when I started to explore a little bit more about multifamily. And before I even explored the option or of exploring what is like a mentorship and that I needed one, it was really when I put I think there were 2 LOIs that I had put in because I was looking at a market in Hartford, and I had got both of them rejected. But at the time, the lender basically was like, okay, let me see your, real estate schedule. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what's that?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
it kind of started from there, where then I went on this sort of, deep dive or a rabbit hole trying to find answers to all of these little things that I uncovered. And I talked to a few people that I knew who are, like the sponsors on, the LP deals that I had done. And
Okay.
try to learn, from that. And that's when I was like, okay, well, maybe it's time to, explore a mentorship program. And I had actually looked at a couple and, but yeah, I guess, Tyler's program definitely got me. And especially after meeting Tyler, it was great. Tyler
Yeah.
and Ryan, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. So with that, let me unpack a couple of things. For maybe newer listeners, an LOI is submitting an offer on properties, and then a schedule of real estate. That one stumps a lot of people. It's like, what's that? And it's essentially listing out all the properties you own, so a lender can actually qualify you for a loan on a larger property. They want to see that you have experience. And so, hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment, leave us a review and a rating. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more listeners. Plus, we love hearing from you. Thanks so much for your support. You know, when you're asked that and you don't have something like that, you can't close on these larger apartment deals. You know, maybe you can close on something smaller, more residential, right? That's easier to do. But when you get into this commercial space, you have to have this schedule of real estate, this experience. And that is exactly kind of what led you here, right? Is you
Yeah.
need someone else to help. You need some mentorship to help get you to that next level, because you did have a little bit of experience and you're like, okay, I gotta get away from that, right? And dive in a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Sweet. So with,
Okay.
Understanding kind of your background, now you did have experience a little bit, got your hands dirty with real estate. Didn't listen to your dad when you were growing up, but now here you are now listening to
Yeah.
him, right? I'm sure he's proud and loves seeing this, but uh, let's dive kind of into like your why. Like why did you do this? I know I mentioned a little bit earlier, probably your kids spending more time, but I know there's a why to that.
Yeah. I think it's, I mean, I always tell my kids that, like when you put your mind to something and, like you work towards it and take action, you can essentially do anything. Right. I'm not saying, go, like be a doctor or whatever overnight, but yes, if you commit to it and, train and, do that, then you can. Similarly, just about anything, is possible if you, educate yourself and be able to do that. And, I think it really kind of stemmed, perhaps from there, that I wanted to be able to, showcase that for my kids, right? And be that role model outside of everything else, because I was already on my path of, realizing that I did need to move away from a 9 to 5. And, I'm, very grateful for, my 25 years of experience in that space, learning what I know now, super grateful, because there are people that I've met, colleagues and ex-colleagues that, have been instrumental to sort of the person that I am today.
Yeah.
But that said, it also made me realize what I don't want to do,
Mm.
and what, which also gave me the, appreciation for what I wanted to do. And I wanted that to actually be showcased to my kids, that, hey, listen to what you want to do, what you're passionate about. And it's okay to, make that pivot and still succeed.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think that's one part of it. The other core part of it, outside of doing it for family, being able to leave like, a legacy behind and everything else, I think it's also, this, I want to say this appreciation, for what I did, what I didn't do, right? Like, my dad told me consistently, like, oh, well, go look at this and look at this. But, I kind of turned a deaf ear, didn't really pay so much attention to, to that. And, obviously later on in my, my years, my professional life, I realized what that meant and that truly meant.
Mhm.
And, and I think that's really what, where I am right now. And I feel like, it's an opportunity to, make my dad proud, and, in the bargain, make myself proud that I can do this and it's
Yeah.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
think
mean,
that's
my dad
huge.
is no more, so hopefully, he'll appreciate it. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even though it's the saying better late than never, right? And
Yeah.
you are still acting upon it now. And what is so interesting is, you going through a career for 25 years and then jumping from that to a whole new industry and things you have to learn, right? That takes a lot of effort, but yeah, the what you're showing your kids is to just continue to progress and
Yeah.
put your mind to something. If that's something you want to do, like you can do that. You can change your outcome or what you're doing currently. Just because you've been in it for 25 years doesn't mean you have to be in it for another 15 years. You can change that and move on to a different space. And so I think that's awesome too. And then spending time with your kids to teach them financial literacy, kind of how your dad tried to teach you as well. It's important
Yeah.
to do that. And I love that. So, what are some ways maybe that you're doing that now with your kids?
Yeah.
And curious to see if there's anything you've changed from maybe how your dad taught you to maybe teaching your kids of, okay, maybe this might stick better with them since I didn't listen
Yeah.
to my dad. Like maybe there's a better way I can get the message across.
Yeah, no, so a few things. I mean, definitely passionate about, like teaching, kids financial literacy. I mean, in all honesty, my journey over the last like couple of years, what I've also learned is it's not just kids, but it's also, some adults, including myself, right? Learning some of the things that are available, from making myself more financially literate, I think has been, definitely a journey, not just for myself, but, some of the people that I know who are adults, as well as, obviously I'm super passionate about being able to, impart that to, like the youth. And I think it starts with my kids, and a few things that I, like that I did, one is I obviously reflected on, okay, what is it that, what and why is it that I didn't listen to my dad, for whatever reason. It was, well, I wouldn't say that I didn't listen to him 100%. I did make a lot of, real estate related investments, but just not, the same asset class that he wanted me to,
Mm,
just, a little different,
yeah.
but that said, uh, with my kids, one, I actually put them in, in a master class, my mastermind, that's available just for kids.
Okay.
So it's actually called Teenage Tycoon. And, when I learned about that, I actually enrolled my kids. It's actually a great program, just available for, um, the kids to be able to learn about, other kids who are in the same sort of mindset, and where they're learning about money and the value for money. And I've tried to teach my kids that, right? Like I always get them, even when I go to the store, I give them a budget and say, okay, whatever you want, make sure that it's within that. It doesn't matter whether it's 20 cents over, like, I'm sorry, you didn't account for taxes. Right, I mean, those are
Okay.
tough
Yeah.
lessons, but maybe sometimes, harsh, and maybe they won't appreciate it, but thank me later when they grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but those are some of the things that, like we do, obviously, at home. I like when I get my kids to do something, I do pay them for it. You
Mm,
know,
yeah.
and my daughter is funny, she cracks me up, but she'll go do something and she's like, okay, like, give me my money. But and that's fine. It's some of these smaller things to understand that, hey, you know what, whatever you're spending, make sure that, one, you understand what you're spending on, and be mindful of it. Just don't go buy it because your friend has it or whatever. Evaluate whether you really need it. Can you do something else with it? Um, outside of that, it's obviously putting them in this program, I think, has, sort of changed. And, again, I have an 18-year-old and 11-year-old. So just, like what my, what my son takes away from the program and what my daughter's, takes away from the program is obviously different for, for them. But I think, what the program itself has to offer is great because, I'm hoping that they're getting to learn from not just peers, but someone else telling them what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. So maybe they'll be this, they'll be more open to receiving that. And I feel like, um, to see the books that they've read or reading, and some of the things that my daughter will come back and tell me, that, oh yeah, it's a liability or not, it's not an asset or whatever. It's like, I feel like it's mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
love
yeah,
that.
I mean, those are some of the things that, like we're obviously looking at, doing things differently.
Yeah. No, I love that. The mastermind piece is really neat because you're right. It removes the aspect of you as a parent and allows them to be around their peers and
Yeah.
learn among them to kind of create, yeah, this little mastermind and this opportunity for these kids to learn entrepreneurship or just the financial literacy that they don't necessarily get in schools where they do learn a lot of things,
Yeah.
right? But it's an other opportunity. I love that. Definitely gonna
Yeah.
to look into that. And I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool opportunities out there for kids to join. That's awesome.
Yeah. No,
So
that's
I want to switch gears a little bit to your deal, right? You've done a deal and I know you got a couple other ones probably in the works. So kind of want to dive into those and how you got to those deals. And something you mentioned, you did this challenge called this 100 days to 100 doors challenge. What is this challenge that you did?
yeah. So it's essentially, the challenge was, to be able to get into an LOI accepted, a letter of intent, accepted at the end of the 100 days or within the 100 days, right? And what that means for, the audience who probably are going to be listening is, um, narrowing down the market, going and finding a deal, underwriting the deal, and obviously, like submitting the LOI and, making sure that, like your LOI is accepted, and for those of you who've actually gone through this process will know that maybe out of 100 deals that you end up underwriting, you might submit maybe 10 LOIs if you're lucky. And, you might end up, I mean, you're lucky if you get one accepted, right, at the end of it. But that was kind of our, like our journey, right? Like we basically, it kind of started with, I'll take it a step back, right? And it kind of talks about, how you can turn sort of challenges, that you face into an opportunity. And I say that with, for those of, who are listening and, like I had the sort of the same struggles as a student. I went through, like going in and, like as much as I'm open to learning and, hustling and grinding and, doing whatever it takes, because, I had something to prove here, right? That
Yeah.
I could do this. 6 months into the program, I had done it all. Like I was networking like crazy. I was talking to people. I was, underwriting deals. I was looking at, newer markets. If things were not working out, I had, established some sponsor, like relationships and, like, but it was not coming together.
Mm.
I felt like very siloed. And I feel like I didn't quite have like a partner, who could offset some of it. And I felt like I was on this little island by myself and trying to still navigate. And I felt like, that was sort of, like my own challenge that I was dealing with. And then I was like, okay, wait, like, let me take a step back. I had just come back from, climbing Kilimanjaro. And I
Wow.
kind of went back to evaluating what I had done, with that experience. I literally put myself into like this time bomb box. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to do this. If I essentially give myself like I will commit and I'll do this every day. If I work out, like 30 days in the month of January, then, I've earned myself to go book a ticket and go and climb Kilimanjaro, because then I know I'm going to do it for the rest of the time until I do it, until I go in the climb. So taking away from that, I kind of, came up with this 100 days to 100 doors challenge. And, again, it was not an original idea, in all honesty. I had actually seen someone else in a different group, that I know who had done, something similar.
Okay.
And so I thought, oh, well, this is great. So I decided, and that's kind of really what started it. I went and put out a post on, like the Facebook group to see if there were others who were interested, because I knew where my gaps were. I knew what my strengths were, and I knew what the gaps were.
Mm.
I said, okay, in order for me to bridge those gaps, I wanted to be able to partner with, others. And I knew what that partnership meant. And some of the roles that I would bring, and some of the, sort of gaps that I had, whether I needed, folks to be able to come in and do some underwriting, or, be able to focus on broker relations or what have you. So that's kind of really, what kind of triggered it all off. And yeah, we started January 2nd. Of 2024. And yeah, like it was, I mean, there were 9 of them. No, in the end, we were about 9 of us, who were part of that program, and or the challenge. And at the end of it, obviously, like ecstatic to say that we ended up getting 2 LOIs accepted
That's awesome.
for 110 doors. Yeah.
Wow. That's exciting. That's really exciting. So that's so cool. I know first you kind of just brushed over this, but you climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Like it's a huge accomplishment. So huge congrats. That is so cool.
Thanks.
That you're able to do that accomplishment. Secondly, taking the lessons you learned from that, and I love those lessons, and I kind of want to break those out of you set out a goal that you kind of wanted to do, but you said it's almost a reward at the same time. It's this goal you wanted to achieve. You wanted to go climb this mountain, yet you knew it was also, it was a reward and a goal to do. Yeah. And to get there, you had to do daily actionable items. And so then you set forth, okay, if I do this for a certain amount of time, then I can book this goal and reward. Like the reward is booking the goal, right? And saying, okay, now I got a date that I'm going to do this. And now, because you just proved yourself, I can do 30 days. I can create this. This is becoming a habit now. And now I'm just going to continue to on that path, whether that's increasing it or whatever it looked like for you. But then you go up to that point, and then you hit your goal on that day, right? So I love how you took that and then used it for this challenge, 100 days to 100 doors. And it's the same concept, right? You're almost booking that deadline of we're going to have a deal under contract in 100 days. Yeah. But to get there, we have to grind and do things on a daily basis. And some of those things you mentioned, market research, underwriting deals, right? But I guess, what else was there, like specific lists of items that you were doing on a daily basis that qualified you to be in this challenge, or the other 9, other 8 people in the challenge? What were some of those tasks that maybe you had to accomplish? And then were you guys meeting like weekly?
We were meeting daily.
Okay. Awesome.
We met daily. And I mean, it was basically, we went through sort of the same struggles that I think anyone would, or any student would, getting into, sort of the program, except for we had one another to hold ourselves accountable. It was, I mean, there are people who would start a study group. I would challenge them to, to actually doing something like 100 days, to 100 doors, because it's not a study anymore, because we were all taking action. Yeah. We were being vulnerable. We did those calls with brokers, we got those rejections, we did those sponsor calls where sponsors didn't want to be on those deals, but that was okay. We learned from that. we learned what it is that they were looking for, and we learned what, we needed to showcase next time around and get better at. Which you obviously, if we were not in that position, we probably wouldn't have been able to, get to where we are today. So I think, I do give, that sort of, credit to the challenge. But I think it was also, like the 9 of us who were, involved, in the challenge. It was us meeting every day, like we were, it's crazy when you think about it, because, like I remember, you know, people were at dinners and, but they still called in, or they wouldn't go because they were, they had this call. We've stayed hours together on the phone trying. I remember doing our first LOI. Oh my God, it was like 4 hours nonstop, of us trying to figure out what is an ideal LOI template to use. And then we take it to a coach and they really ripped it apart and, like made it like a 1-pager.
Yeah.
But, those are sort of the, the lessons that, that we learned. And it was actually a great learning experience, because we were taking action, like I think each one of the 9 of us who were in that, challenge, we all had done enough of the learning. Like we had done the path, we had gone through that. And, I felt like each one of us was trying to make things happen by ourselves. So this kind of provided us an opportunity to be able to, work together. And because of that, we learned, one another's, sort of strengths and weaknesses, and, and what we could double down on, right? Take those strengths and double down on it, and, like extend ourselves in the other areas. So I think, I don't want to speak to everyone, but I think for me personally, it stretched me and, allowed me to learn, because of that. Which was just so powerful.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think the biggest factor here, right, was the accountability of daily meeting, right? And making it a non-negotiable. It was a non-negotiable. I'm sure you started with more than 9 people at the beginning, and that easily fizzled out because they didn't commit, right? And I think that shows a lot, as you guys committed to meeting every day, no matter the circumstance, because you knew what your goal was at the end of the day, and you were going to reward yourself with that goal. But you knew you had to meet every day. And there's always the chance that you don't close those doors, but you made it a non-negotiable to make progress, and you spent that time and effort. And I think that's accelerated your journey so much faster than someone that's been in this program a year, maybe 2 years, but they're not at it daily, right? They're not spending that time, and they don't have that accountability. And so it's, a day during the week when they have some free time, or here or there, they're doing some things, but that commitment to each other, you will go through the same struggles, but it's different because you can rely on each other. It's a mastermind, right? You can problem solve together, and you don't have to be in the silo that you felt like you were in. And I think that's huge. I think that's very powerful, especially all of our listeners, those that are even in our program, they all feel that at some point. You're in your little silo, and that's where, partnerships are important. But beyond even just having one partner, having a mastermind, because even as a partnership, you hit the same roadblocks, and you don't know what to do. And so having a mastermind group allows you to tackle that. I think that's awesome. So that's huge that you dove into that challenge, you created that team, and then it turned out successful for you guys, right? Which is really fun.
It definitely is, and I do want to say, I think well, like we in the end, it ended up being that we did have like a deal that, an LOI that got accepted, and yes, that was our goal, and we hit the goal, which is great. this is really the time when you do the happy dance. But, with that said, I think for each one of us, I don't think we ever thought we were not going to get that, that we were not, like it was not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to, and we've reflected on this, post our 100 days, we've actually had like a meeting to just talk about, just takeaways from, what we did and, like what we will not do and, so on, just a reflection on it. But I think the one common thread was just that sort of concept of visualization. I think that just remained, and it kind of goes back to, even with my climb to Kilimanjaro, I think, like I knew that, like I saw myself on Uhuru, right? Like it was not negotiable. There were challenges along the way. The porter did tell me that, you might not get there because you only have 58% oxygen level. So we're going to monitor you. But for me, like there was no other way, at that point, right? I mean, not that I challenged them or anything, but it just so happened that, like in the end, I did make it to Uhuru. And I think there is a power to visualization. And I feel like, in the last, like, I want to say, year and a half or 2 years, I've seen it twice already, right? Like not just with, the climb, but also with, like the 100 days to 100 doors. And I really hope that, that I'm able to sort of double down on the same thing and, be able to take it, forward, as we go through sort of, into deal over deal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this goes into our next questions really well. But before I dive into those, it is important. It's very powerful. Visualization is very powerful, but the key to that is the action you took behind it. And maybe this is something Dallas can unpack, but it's the question you asked there is, who do you need to become to be the person that climbed that mountain?
Yeah.
And what do you need to be doing every day to be that person, right? Because you have to be a different person when that day comes to accomplish that. And I think that's, really, really key to that. But with that, I want to dive into these, our questions, the think bigger questions, I like to call them. So first question is, how do you choose think bigger?
Well, think bigger for, I think it's different for everyone. For me, personally, I think my goalpost kind of keeps moving as I reach the milestone. So for me, it's I do sort of embrace the crawl, walk, run sort of concept. And for me, the think bigger is being able to follow that path, but have a goal in the end. It doesn't matter what the goal is. That's my think bigger, because I know like where I am today, I need to take it, like it could be 10x, it could be 2x, but my think bigger concept can be either one, depending on what the situation is.
Yeah.
And where, it's being applied.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Second question is, how do you define success?
Yeah, I think, again, this is one of those which is so different, right? Like for each one, success means different, and I think the interpretation can also be defined differently. For me, success is, being able to, again, it could be tied to happiness too. Like as long as, I would consider, being successful, when I've reached that milestone that I've set for myself, where I'm happy and comfortable. It doesn't mean like, I'm going to have a jet, but it means that, it can mean something else. And I think everyone's, that success factor is different, but I think the bottom line there is, for me personally, am I growing, learning and growing from where I am now to, getting my own sort of PR, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what I define as success for me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
and
Love
I
that.
think it's different for everyone.
Yeah. 1% better every day, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're progressing, like that's success. I love that.
Yeah.
And hitting your milestones, right? And then you continue to move those. Yeah. Perfect.
Right.
Last question is, what is the best advice you can give new multifamily investors or students?
Oh my God. I think it goes into, what my biggest takeaway has been for the last like 2 years. I think it's taking action, and it's taking action. It doesn't matter how small or big, but it's taking consistent action.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's where the power is. And, in all honesty, like that's my biggest takeaway from, like the journey that I've been in. And I want to leave that message behind, because I feel like, we don't realize it, but that's the power is actually in that, is in taking those, small steps, but it's consistently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love that. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Man, this has been really good, Rashmi. I really appreciated your time, and I want to just give a little rundown of kind of my takeaways, and hopefully those listeners had these as well. But kind of working backwards here, but the one is consistent action, being consistent. Jump into this 100 days, the 100 doors challenge. Have that accountability and take the action daily, because it is a compound effect. You're not going to get a deal tomorrow, but you might get a deal in 100 days if you do what you have to do every single day. That can happen, right? And so I love that one. Take consistent action. The other ones is visualization. Visualizing that it's going to happen. Like you see yourself there, and then you're going to make that happen. Be the person you need to be to get there. And then another one I loved was, the financial literacy for kids, mastermind groups. They're great for all ages, and anything you want to do and grow in is a mastermind, which is another word for like a network, right? Be a part of a network of people that have the same mindset and are wanting to grow and expand. Be around those people, and that's going to help you learn a lot faster. You're not in this journey alone. Like we're all in the same boat, and we're all in this journey of life, of multifamily, however you want to look at it, and surround yourself with people that are going to help push you. And I think that's goes all the way back to that 100 doors in 100 days challenge, right? But with that, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share your story and your experience. And with that, listeners, if you want to get a hold of Rashmi or connect with her, which you should, her information is going to be in the show notes. So just check it out there. And with that, we will see you guys next time.
Multifamily Mindset. Podcast. Think bigger.